What a crazy, beautiful life this is. Because of print on demand, I've been able to see the world in ways I never even thought I'd be able to. Not only have I been able to make a living from it, but we've been able to spend an entire month in Costa Rica, and we're moving to Belize, and I just got an impromptu opportunity to travel to Latvia to speak at a print on demand conference, which happens in about a month. And then a month after that, my better half Stacey and I are going on the most epic adventure we've ever been on. We're gonna drive through the entire United States and then down through Mexico, all the way to Belize. And yes, we're bringing our pooch Tonka. We're trading cold winters in Canada for the beautiful beach vibes of Belize. We just sold the travel trailer and now we need to sell the truck. We bought a used minivan that Stacey isn't happy about at all, and I'm secretly hoping it doesn't turn out to be a giant money pit. That's a story for another day though. Never thought I'd be the proud owner of a minivan. Well, I'm not technically proud at all, so just owner. Anyway, next up is getting the house ready and listed to rent. After that, it's getting my ducks in a row for a trip across the pond to Latvia. And we gotta do all of this while Stacey and I navigate selling a bunch of stuff. We have way too much stuff, and getting things in order to boogie across the continent. If you're new here, I'm Jay, and I've been doing print on demand for about 10 years, and I'm trying to help people like you get into it so you can experience more of what life has to offer instead of just working till almost 70 years old and then hoping you're healthy enough to enjoy your next 10 or 15 years. What a ripoff, right? Life is short, so don't waste it working to make someone else rich in a 9 to 5. Please give me a like and sub down below so I can keep this going. If you don't know, we decided to sell our 3-bed, 3-bath house in suburbia almost 4 years ago and move out to the country. We downsized our way into a 2-bedroom house on 3/4 of an acre with a fire pit and room for Tonka to run, all without the confines of that, suburban 30-foot wide backyard. I mean, he would take 3 gallops and he'd be at the fence. For the first time, we were mortgage free. All we needed was good internet speeds to keep running our 30-day Etsy challenge that myself and a couple others have been doing for a few years. Well, it took literal months to find a good enough and solid enough internet hookup in our rural area. But when COVID hit, we had to put our lives on hold in a big way. We were worried, we watched, we waited, but unlike most of the world, we didn't have the fear of losing our jobs. Our worries were very different. One print-on-demand company that I'd been using for 2 years was suddenly out of large and extra large black t-shirts. Some obscure colors and some sizes on the fringes like extra smalls or 4 or 5XL could sometimes run out in Q4 with the Christmas rush craziness. That's just a part of the deal. But never before in my previous 6 years did someone run out of black, the most popular color, in the most popular sizes in the first half of the year. So then I tried 2 other POD companies that still had some stock left till they ran out. To make matters worse, Amazon Merch paused their program too, because it turns out there were global supply chain shortages. People were getting sick by the masses all over the planet, you guys know, especially including where our garments were actually being made. Facilities had no staff. So I checked inventory on a couple of our suppliers that I had an account with from a previous life that I had with a friend who was in a screen printing business. They had inventory. So now what? Well, another friend had told me that they had just started working for the #1 Canadian distributor for DTG printers and said to let them know if I was ever interested in printing for myself. At first I was like, no friggin' way would I want to be handcuffed to a brick and mortar and not be able to travel. Well, enter the pandemic, the POD shortages, the closing of the borders, which totally kiboshed our plans to do any more traveling anyway, and you just basically created the perfect storm where we needed to pivot in a massive way. So I called my buddy, and he happened to have a line of really good used printing equipment. A beautiful Brother DTG machine and a pre-treat machine and a brand new conveyor dryer, heat press, all basically to the tune of like $40,000. When life gives you lemons, go into debt, right? So there we were, back into debt in a big way. But since we knew we could get actual inventory and basically had our own print shop now, we were in a unique position while hundreds of thousands of other PODers were simply screwed. With people forced to stay home and shop online, they were getting hammered with orders but couldn't fulfill them. Etsy shops were closing all over the place. Well, some people decided to start selling digital downloads and made an absolute killing. Then when the world opened up again and stock levels started to, rise again, more and more people shifted from digital to selling POD goods again. With everyone handcuffed at home and an entire generation of older people forced to learn how to shop online, business was booming. Then came an influx of Etsy success stories, which led to crazy passive income stories where they sold a dream and conveniently left out all the upfront work needed to create, list, and then actually sell your stuff. So many YouTubers were now claiming to be gurus, when really it was the easiest point of our lives to make money online. But to the masses who hadn't yet started selling online, they were gods. Now, I'm not knocking any hustles here. Everybody had to pivot in some way, and they did it in a big way, and were definitely making big money and showing you how to do what they did, which is absolutely awesome. Now, you might call me a hypocrite. I mean, here I am on YouTube talking about print on demand too, right? Well, along with all these new faces came a crap load of bad info. And while I don't believe that anybody was intentionally misleading anyone, just because something worked for one person does not make it a best practice. And so many of my past students and Facebook group members would come to me with all this crazy hearsay about all kinds of weird, quote unquote, rules to follow, asking me if what they said was true and telling me I needed to set the record straight. So that was kind of the catalyst, or I guess tipping point, for me starting this channel. But the main reasons were to continue to do what I had already been doing for 4 or 5 years, but in a much bigger way. I wanted to educate and inspire people to leave their 9-to-5s, get out of whatever toxic workplaces you had found yourselves in, or even just do more of what you want to do with your time instead of feeling stuck. I'm not rich in the dollars and cents. I mean, I do all right, but I'm not at a point in my life where I want to be grinding 10 to 12 hours a day. I like enjoying the fruits of my labors and can't wait to drive the 5,500 kilometer trek down through the US and Mexico to Belize for our next chapter. It's also been an absolute privilege for me to be able to work on my POD business for like 10 to 15 hours a week and spending the rest of my time making YouTube content for you guys to learn from for free. I honestly just want everyone to win, and I think that everyone should have access to a lot of this information for free and not have to pay hundreds, $300, $400, $500 to watch some course. I was scared poopless to put myself out there in YouTube land, but now I actually kind of fun, and you guys have been amazingly receptive, which in turn has been super validating. So thank you for that. Plus, the more info I give you for free, the more I get to watch you all celebrate your victories, no matter how big or small they might be. And hopefully one day I'll make more than $1 a day on here too, which would be pretty awesome. Anyway, about 1.5 years ago, when the world kind of opened up again, we went down to Belize again as soon as we could. We were itching, but this time we used some of the equity in our house and bought a half-acre lot on a small little island called Key Cocker. We were thinking about selling our house here in Ontario and using that money to start building on our lot. But after thinking about it and learning more, I realized that all the people who were doing really well financially didn't do it from selling their real estate. They did it by buying and then renting out. Or if they did sell, they got creative and did some things like vendor financing, which was a new term I learned last year, where they essentially became the bank or lender and sold their properties, but they would take a down payment and then charge interest on the remaining on a mortgage that they would hold themselves, just like the big banks do it. So that's something we're now thinking about too. What would you guys do? There's no capital gains tax or anything like that, like there is insanely here in Ontario. You guys have any tips or great ideas? This is very newish to us, and I want to build real wealth in different ways. So if you have creative ideas or experiences in this department, please let me know. In the meantime, we decided to become landlords and rent out our house here in Canada and become renters ourselves in Belize for at least 1 year or so, just to make sure it's all going to work out and see if we even like it as much as we think we will. That way we still have a house in Canada to come back to if we change our minds. Stacey's pretty convinced that we're probably never coming back, or at least not coming back for a good long while. And while it's a bit daunting to think about, I kind of hope she's right. And everyone we talk to who's done the move all say that they only wish they had done it sooner. All of this is very much outside our comfort zones, but I think I'm just getting used to being outside of my comfort zone. Because, well, life is too bloody short not to try new things. And the more adventurous Stacey and I have become, the more successes and small victories we've experienced along the way. Win-win, right? So now the clock is ticking. We have to go through some rental applications, which is also friggin' nutso. I can't believe we're going to be landlords, but hopefully we get a lease signed in the next 2 weeks so I can stop stressing about this and actually start tackling other things on the to-do list. I'll update where we're at in a week or so, but in the meantime, please let me know if you have any questions about the process of buying in Belize or driving through North America or anything really. We're going to document it all anyway, but if you guys have any specifics you want to know, then at least I'll make sure to give you what you actually want to see. Remember to like and sub, and we'll see you in the next one.